I said, well, okay, we'll do it. So we wrote a book on communication. It's got loads of my stories in there, but it's basically communication, how to get in front of who you want, how to focus the ROI on relationships, and how to focus the ROE on your businesses, return on energy.
Welcome, Steve. I am stoked to be talking to you live. I imagine you are currently holed up somewhere in England, yes?
Actually, no, I'm in Los Angeles and I've just woke up.
Oh my God, you're in Los Angeles. Are you living there now?
Yeah, I've been living here for about 20 years.
Okay, fantastic. So that's amazing. Tell me a little bit about how that, from childhood to moving across the pond and now living in LA. Tell me a little bit, give us the backstory.
Cool. Let me see if I can condense this in like 45 seconds. Born in Reading, raised in Walthamstow, East End bricklayer, no future, no hope, no social platforms to prove to me how inadequate my life was. So I didn't know what I was missing out on. I just knew I was missing out. So I went on a worldwide journey, literally, to try and find, hey, there's got to be something better in my life. Tried so many jobs because the only thing I'd ever been doing was literally construction and manual work. I tried stockbroking, truck driving, car sales, cake sales, door-to-door insurance. Ended up landing on my ass with no hope, no future. Became a doorman again because it seemed to be what God built me for, to be big and ugly. And it was from that point I noticed that I was doing things wrong because rich people acted differently. They talked differently. Now, I'm talking about rich people. I'm not talking about the wannabes, the ones that think they're all that, the egos. So I needed to find a reason. And as I was a doorman, I knew where all the nightclubs were. So I used to start knocking around with the richer people going, hey, what are you doing Tuesday? There's a new nightclub. Do you want me to get you? And I started becoming basically the Google of the best nightclubs of this area. Now, I've got to tell you, I'd moved so far away from where I was physically living in Hong Kong now. You know, I was in that much of a hunt. Because all the opportunity apparently was there. And I thought I could make up a resume on the flight over. And it didn't get me anywhere apart from being on the door. I went from getting people in the nightclubs to throwing private parties. So I was a party promoter. Then I started taking over yachts and mansions. And then I started noticing that they wanted certain things. So I was getting cars and jewelry. And I became the person you needed to know if you needed something. I was basically the real life Ray Donovan. I was the connector. I was the fixer. And this was all in the early 90s before the word concierge was ever uttered outside of the hotel. I became this concierge by default. And I went on this 20-year history of launching the world's first personal concierge firm, only to billionaires and multi-millionaires. And along the way, I sent people down to the Titanic. I got them a piano lesson with Elton John. I got them drum lessons with Guns N' Roses. I closed down museums in Florence for a dinner party of 6 and had Andre Bocelli come in and serenade them during the pasta. So when that was all starting to happen, I became the experiential guy. And Forbes called me the real life Wizard of Oz. Now, I'm glossing over that quickly because you need to understand, I never wanted to be a concierge. I never wanted to be the guy that sorted out your fantasies and got you a Hermes bag ahead of the line or got you into a club that you weren't on the guest list for. I did it because I wanted to be able to be in a room with rich people and find out how you thought, how you did things, how you perceive things. So it was a Trojan horse for me to kind of like do all of my research, and that's what got me to where I am today.
Fascinating approach. That is very, very exceptional. So I have a bunch of questions that are popping up for me. So it's rare to be able to be, a lot of people are intimidated by successful people. You were very curious, but what was the secret sauce for you to be able to be comfortable being around celebrities and them being comfortable with trusting you?
Well, see, the funny thing was I ended up getting celebrities because I ended up getting the people that backed them originally. So, there were so many billionaires that look at Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg's famous all over the world. The guy basically shops at Gap on a regular basis and looks as though he can't afford a good meal. Okay. Right. When you get to that level, Warren Buffett is still driving the same car he's had for 10 years. Yeah. And he still eats at Burger King. So when you get to that level, you kind of don't care anymore. Right. Now, the funny thing is, and I can tell you a story that I had in Walthamstow. When I was a young lad, and I've always been a biker, I'm still a biker, me and my mates, we went to this pub, and in this pub was this local guy that at the time had a supermarket and a gas station, okay? Now, I had heard his name, but I'd never met him. But to me, this was like Richard Branson. This guy owned two things, He was like the superstar of the village. Right. And as we got in there, my buddy turned around and went, "Oh, so-and-so's in here." And he was holding court with the pretty girls in the bar and a couple of guys. And I went, "That's the guy?" And he went, "Yeah, it is." And without me thinking about it, I walked over to the guy and I went, "Hey, how you doing? You don't know me. I'm Steve Sims." And he went, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" He went, "Hey, I'm just getting a beer. Do you want a beer?" And I went, "Yeah, sure. Cheers." And he got me a beer. Now, I thought to myself, result. I don't have to pay a bit. Bear in mind, I didn't have a lot of money at the time. And I was just being, cheeky London chappy like we all are. But something hit me, because when I turned around to my buddies to find out if they wanted a beer as well, they were pinned up against the wall. They literally had not made a step towards this person. And I realized then that there was something different. There are people that get terrified and run away, and you used the correct word. And then there are people that are curious and lean into it. And I was the guy that lent into it. Yeah, why are you rich? Why have you got this? Why? I wanted to know. I was like a little kid. Also at the time, my wife said to me that I had the superpower of ignorance. I didn't have that fear. And so I have quite often turned up at events and walked up to, Elon Musk. And I named famous people, but I'm telling you, 75% of my client base you've never heard of, but they are richer than all those other people. But they don't have the doors opened. And so that's how it happened. I was ignorant rather than fearful. Had I known who I was talking to, and there's been many a time when I've talked to people and they've gone, "Oh, well, I didn't know you knew so-and-so." And I've been like, crap, did I just have a half-hour conversation with him on, how to make a good old-fashioned? And, I may be speaking to, like, the defense secretary of the US. It's uncanny, but I am always that curious, giggly little child that just wants to find out, why do you see things differently?
That's so interesting, because I think when people let their brain be run by fear, they make stuff up in their head. And I had a friend of mine who was hiking the other day. Do you know who David Goggins is, who wrote the book Can't Hurt Me?
I know David. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I know Tucker Max. I know the whole people around him and the book. Yeah.
So she's going for a hike, and this guy pulls up in a truck beside her to park the car to go for a run, obviously. And somebody else says, "Oh my God, you know who that is?" And she didn't know who he was. So she walks up to him and she goes, "Apparently you're somebody famous. Am I supposed to get a picture with you?" And he's like, "I don't just give up pictures." She goes, "Well, I guess you're not that famous." And she walks away. And he goes, hey, come here, I'll take a picture with you, right? So it's a little bit of that, like you said, that piece of ignorance, that piece of innocence, that piece of just being so relaxed. And rather than, you can feel somebody being nervous and intimidated. That, if you're familiar with the concept of rapport is being in a sense of likeness with another person. But I never heard this before, Steve, but I heard it the other day. They said, if you're in sales and you're nervous about the sale, you can cause the other person to feel nervous.
Yep.
And then they're not going to even know why they don't want to make a decision. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. No one does anything when they're nervous and confused. One of the funny things that hit me when I was a young lad, and it was trivial at the time, but has led me so far. And it's funny enough, I actually live down the road now from where they shot it. But when I was a young lad in Reading, I went to the movies and I saw the movie Point Break. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And there's a moment in there, and as I say, I live just down the road from where they shot the movie now, but in the movie, there's a part where they've got Johnny Utah and they're taking him to the bank and they're forcing him to be involved in the heist. And Bo Decipher turns around and he says, fear causes hesitation, and hesitation will cause your worst fears to come true. Now, I was a kid at the time when I heard that, but honestly, for the next 10 minutes of the movie, the whole adrenaline action scene following that, I actually missed, because that article, that statement stuck with me. And I thought to myself, do I hesitate? Do I stop? And I install it in my kids. I install it in me. It's like a mantra to me. I'm not going to wait, because it's that hesitation that creates stagnance and a cancer in order for you to get any kind of progress or growth. It's not good.
Yeah, I agree 100%. We have heard that before. He who hesitates loses, but it's that lack of actual mental and physical commitment that creates the uncertainty that leads to mistakes. So yeah, full on with you. So you obviously got into a lot of rooms with a lot of cool people, a lot of people that we don't know that are billionaires and successful behind the scenes that you've been able to create some experiences for. You've now got a book called Bluefishing, The Art of Making Things Happen. And you're a sought after coach and speaker on a lot of networks and groups and associations, as well as the Pentagon and Harvard. So tell us a little bit about that book, what's in it, because that's probably 20 or 30 years of your experience.
It was a shock. Many things happen when you're in the right rooms. So I always focused my entire life to make sure I'm in the right room. I had a saying before I knew about the 5 people. I always used to say, you are the room you're in. So I was at a party in New York. Someone had told some stories about what I got up to. She came over and she went, oh, you should write a book. Now, we all hear that. She happened to be one of the heads of Simon & Schuster, one of the largest publishing houses in America. So I was like, wow, okay. And you think what you do may be a little bit cool, but it's not that exciting, because the stuff you do, anyone can do it, until you really start to analyze it and you realize maybe they can do it, but they don't. They try to oversmart themselves, or that fear kicks in. I believe that what I've done, anyone could do, but for some reason you talk yourself out of it. If you say to someone, hey, if you could do anything in the world, what would it be? And they'd turn around and go, oh, I'd play piano with Sir Elton John. And then they go, oh, but I don't know how to get high. I can't even play the piano. I wouldn't want to. You say what you want, and then the next 10 minutes telling yourself why it can never happen, okay? And so when they said about doing this book and they said, hey, we'd like you to name the famous and the powerful people. And I've worked with clients that have owned things like countries. And I've worked with people that, and I told them, if I mention their names in print, I'm dead by cocktail hour. That's as simple as that. So I said I could never do that. And so I ended up doing a speech for a guy called Joe Polish at the Genius Network in Scottsdale. And I did it around, hey, how a bricklayer can be doing this with the Pope, and how a bricklayer can be doing this with Elon Musk. And then they came back to me because they'd got wind of that speech, and they said, hang on a minute, forget the names. We want to focus on your methodology. How do you create impact that's very inexpensive? You see, impact is not related to a checkbook, okay? So I said, well, okay, we'll do it. So we wrote a book on communication. It's got loads of my stories in there, but it's basically communication, how to get in front of who you want, how to focus the ROI on relationships, and how to focus the ROE on your businesses, return on energy. I honestly didn't think it would take off, okay? I just thought, hey, this is cool. Simon & Schuster's going to allow me to do this book. They paid me very handsomely for it. It came out on October the 13th, I think like 2 years ago. First couple of months, I think it sold, 2,000 copies, less than 2,000 copies over those entire 2 months. And I remember contacting them and they went, I said, is that good? And they went, not really. And I went, oh, okay. And I went, oh, should I call next week? And I remember her saying to me, don't worry about it. We'll call you. And I was like, oh, crap. Following month, it sold 18,000. And just like then went hysterical from there. It's now been translated into Mandarin Chinese, Thai, Vietnamese, Polish, Korean, and it's being translated into Russian now. So it's just launched me into getting out there, because I quite honestly couldn't believe that people are avoiding the simple, stupid stuff in order to be able to brand, grow, and build relationships.